By the late 1970s, America's trust in government was in tatters. Vietnam had ended in dissolution, Watergate had toppled a president, and faith in federal institutions like the FBI and CIA was at rock bottom. Politicians were seen as corrupt, government as overreaching, and the public wondered if honesty in politics still existed at all. Then came an undercover operation that began as a simple criminal case but evolved into a full-blown assault on corruption in Washington. An operation that exposed powerful officials, shocked the nation, and briefly rekindled hope that the system could be still cleaned up. What was ABSCAM? How did it get started? Who was involved? What was the result? Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, former history professor, Army and Marine Corps veteran, and welcome to this episode of Forgotten History. ABSCAM started in July 1978 and lasted until February 1980 and didn't begin as a political sting at all. It started as a small-scale FBI operation aimed at catching stolen art dealers and mobsters, and then evolved into a large-scale political corruption investigation. Here's how it started. In 1978, the FBI started investigating mobsters dealing in stolen paintings and fake securities in New York City. In order to identify and prosecute these criminals, the FBI set up a fictitious company on Long Island called Abdul Enterprises Limited, with offices located in New Jersey and Florida, all owned by a wealthy Arab sheikh who wished to invest oil money in valuable artworks, legitimate or not. The operation was directed from the FBI's office in Hauppauge, New York, on Long Island, and was conducted under the supervision of Assistant Director Neil Welch, who headed the Bureau's New York Division, and Thomas B. Puccio, head of the Justice Department's United States Organized Crime Strike Force for the Eastern District of New York. The FBI recruited a mob connection informant who managed to link the crooks willing to sell the stolen treasures to the fictitious Arab sheikh. To launch the sting, the FBI hired actual criminals and conmen to try to catch the art thieves and black market securities dealers. Their primary informant was legendary conman Mel Weinberg, a convicted mobster who would set up meetings, allowing the FBI undercover agents to pose as buyers and record these transactions on video. After years of scams, with the help of his housemate and mistress, Evelyn Knight, the FBI arrested Weinberg in 1977 on fraud and conspiracy charges. In exchange for not serving the 3 years in prison to which he'd been sentenced, and dropping charges against his mistress, he agreed to help the FBI execute ABSCAM. He told the FBI that the scams ran all the way up to politicians in Washington, and he could prove it, and he was paid about $150,000 for his work. His 1981 biography, The Sting Man, later inspired the film American Hustle. FBI agent John Good worked as the supervisor and Anthony Amoroso as the undercover expert in the sting operation while using Weinberg's underworld knowledge and connections to help them hone their operational skills, make contacts, and find potential targets. Arab-owned Abdul Enterprises attempted to buy stolen or forged artworks from black market dealers, with Weinberg as the middleman. It worked, and within a few months they'd recovered paintings worth about $1 million and arrested the criminals caught on tape carrying out these illegal deals. The initial targets were organized crime figures in New York and Philadelphia and involved in stolen art and securities. Undercover agents posing as buyers quickly uncovered major fraud schemes, ultimately preventing the sale of nearly $600 million in bogus securities. Several arrests followed, and some of those taken into custody began to cooperate, revealing connections that reached into high-level politics. Weinberg's girlfriend, Evelyn Knight, was brought in to help plan and conduct the operation. At that time, they were facing prison sentences, and in exchange for their help, the FBI agreed to let them out on probation. Weinberg, supervised by the FBI, created the fake company called Abdul Enterprises. in which FBI employees posed as fictional Arab sheikhs led by owners Kambir Abdul Rahman and Yasser Habib, who had millions of dollars to invest in the United States. Weinberg instructed the FBI to fund a $1 million account with the Chase Manhattan Bank in the name of Abdul Enterprises, giving the company the credibility it needed to further its operation. Armed with a list of names, the agents then approached individuals suspected of shady behavior serving in Congress. This was when ABSCAM was really born. The FBI was well aware of the fierce public outcry regarding rampant corruption in the government, so they initiated their bold and innovative operation. Unfortunately for the feds, despite being aware of this issue for years, their prior attempts at combating corruption and bribery had failed miserably. The new plan was to employ an agent posing as the fake Arab sheikh who could possibly bribe elected officials to fulfill political demands. The FBI kept using Mel Weinberg, and the ABSCAM stings grew more elaborate. Things took a turn when one black market dealer that they'd targeted casually mentioned to the undercover agents that the sheikhs they worked for should consider investing in Atlantic City, New Jersey casinos. He claimed that the necessary government support and permits to get those casinos built could be obtained by bribing corrupt politicians. Now, ABSCAM had some new targets. Their meetings started with these politicians and were recorded on hidden cameras in lavish hotel suites in Washington, D.C. and New York. Soon, the undercover agents met with Angelo Ericetti, the mayor of Camden, New Jersey, who promised them gambling licenses for a piece of the action and even said he knew some congressmen who would also help the sheikhs' various business interests if they were bribed. In 1979, Ericetti connected the FBI agents to U.S. Representative Frank Thompson and other corrupt political figures. This was when the FBI pivoted from stolen goods to testing political corruption, targeting lawmakers willing to trade official acts for bribes. From there, the investigation led to southern New Jersey and on to Washington, D.C. The criminal contacts led the FBI to politicians such as the aforementioned Angelo Ericetti. Bob Guccione, publisher of Penthouse magazine, was also approached with a bribe from the undercover FBI agents. Guccione was in the process of building the Penthouse Boardwalk Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City, and he needed financing. He was associated with ABSCAM's interest in Atlantic City, so Weinberg approached him and told him that an Arab sheikh wanted to invest $150 million in the casino project, but only if the casino had obtained a gaming license. Weinberg wanted Guccione to pay a $300,000 bribe to New Jersey gaming officials to get the license. Guccione refused and said, "Are you out of your mind?" After the ABSCAM scandal came to light, Guccione sued the federal government, but lost. Then, when the undercover agents expressed interest in getting the sheikh asylum in the U.S., the corrupt politicians arranged a meeting with some members of Congress who could make it happen. So, for a price of $50,000 up front and an extra $50,000 afterward, these politicians assured it could be done through private legislation. In June 1980, Michael Myers was found guilty and later expelled from Congress, becoming only the fourth member in history to be expelled. Later, trials were held for Frank Thompson, John Jenrette, Raymond Lederer, John Murphy, Richard Kelly, Harrison Williams, and Angelo Ericetti. On February 2, 1980, the Washington Post and NBC News broke the story. The FBI has videotaped members of Congress taking cash from undercover agents. A media frenzy erupted. Headlines accused the FBI of Congress on the take. All the congressmen arrested were convicted and served jail sentences. With the hard evidence of their shady dealings right there on FBI surveillance tapes, their fates were sealed. Here's the breakdown of those convicted. In the U.S. House of Representatives, Democrat Frank Thompson of New Jersey, who was chairman of the House Administration Committee, was convicted of bribery and conspiracy after being videotaped accepting $50,000 from undercover agents. He served 2 years in federal prison and died in 1989. John M. Murphy, Democrat congressman from Staten Island, New York, was found guilty of bribery, conspiracy, interstate travel in aid of racketeering, and he said, "I have no apologies to make to anyone. He served 20 months and died in 2015. Raymond Lederer, Democrat congressman from Philadelphia, was convicted of bribery and conspiracy in 1981 and caught on camera when he infamously said, "Money talks and bullshit walks," and he served 3 years and died in 2008. Michael Ozzie Myers, Democrat congressman from Philadelphia, served 3 years in prison and was disbarred from political life. But in 2020, he was convicted again in a separate election fraud scheme in Philadelphia, trying to manipulate votes for Joseph Biden, and he was sentenced in 2022 to 2.5 years in prison. John Jenrette, Democrat congressman from South Carolina, was convicted of bribery and conspiracy after accepting $50,000. He was caught on videotape saying, "I've got larceny in my blood. I'll take it in a goddamn minute." He served 13 months and wrote a memoir titled Capital Steps, and he died in 2003. Richard Kelly, Republican from Florida, was the only Republican congressman caught. He claimed entrapment, stating, "I was pretending to be in on the deal to catch them." His defense claimed that he was playing along to catch the bribe givers himself, but the jury didn't buy it. He was convicted of bribery, served 13 months in federal prison. His sentence was briefly overturned, but then reinstated on appeal. He left politics and practiced law in Florida until his death in 2005. Senator Harrison A. Williams, Democrat senator from New Jersey, was convicted of bribery and conspiracy for agreeing to help secure contracts in exchange for investment in a titanium mine. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison and served 2. He resigned from the Senate in 1982 before being expelled and died in 2001. Angelo Ericetti, the mayor of Camden, New Jersey, was convicted of bribery and conspiracy. He was caught making the statement, "In this business, you've got to have a little larceny in your heart." He was sentenced to 3 years in prison and died in 2013. Former Philadelphia City Council President George X. Schwartz was found guilty of bribery, conspiracy, and extortion and received a sentence of 366 days in prison and a fine of $10,000. Another former Philadelphia City Councilman, Harry Giannotti, was sentenced to 6 months in prison and fined $2,000 for bribery, conspiracy, and extortion. Louis Johansson, another Philadelphia City Councilman, was found guilty of conspiracy and bribery, for which he received a 3-year prison sentence. In 1980, New Jersey State Senate member Joseph A. Maressa had accepted $10,000 from a group of FBI agents who were part of the ABSCAM undercover operation. The money was given to Maressa on behalf of the fictional Arab sheikh in exchange for Maressa's efforts to get legislative support to obtain a gambling license for a casino in Atlantic City. Maressa justified accepting what he described as legal fees, saying, "I felt like it would be patriotic to take some of this OPEC oil money and get it back to the United States." Maressa was not prosecuted. Representative Democrat John Murtha of Pennsylvania refused to take the bribe from the undercover agents. Although he was never convicted or prosecuted, he was named an unindicted co-conspirator in the scandal. As such, Murtha testified against Frank Thompson and John Murphy, who were at the same meeting. The videotape shows Murtha stating, "I'm not interested, sorry, at this point," in direct response to an offer of $50,000 in cash. Senator Larry Pressler, Republican from South Dakota, refused to take the bribe, saying at the time, "Wait a minute, what you are suggesting may be illegal," and reported the incident to the FBI. When Pressler was told that Walter Cronkite referred to him on the evening news as a hero, he stated, "I do not consider myself a hero. What have we come to if turning down a bribe is heroic?" ABSCAM was controversial because the FBI's aggressive use of entrapment tactics was deployed and suspected, but the courts upheld all the major convictions. Like many high-profile sensitive investigations, ABSCAM generated its share of controversy. In particular, questions were raised about whether the undercover efforts led to entrapment. The fallout from the case led to tighter congressional ethics rules, but also fueled debate over FBI entrapment tactics. Regardless, ABSCAM remains one of the most famous U.S. political corruption stings in history. The most lasting legacy of ABSCAM may be that it established a precedent for future government investigations. The operation inspired other high-profile FBI stings, such as the investigation into former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich, and has been an important example of how to fight corruption at the highest levels of government. Since then, under the Obama and Biden administrations, the FBI became politically corrupted and had lost all credibility due to their targeting political opponents, religious groups, and especially members in the first Trump administration and their supporters, while clearly ignoring crimes by Democrats. But the FBI is slowly starting to come back under the new administration, as those involved in crimes in the past and the cover-ups in those administrations are now under investigation and many are pending indictments. During ABSCAM, the FBI handed out more than $400,000 in bribes to congressmen and middlemen. In the end, ABSCAM stood as both a victory for the FBI and a reckoning for American politics. The convictions of corrupt officials sent shockwaves through Washington, leading to reforms aimed at curbing influence peddling and tightening oversight within Congress. Yet, the operation also left behind lingering questions about the ethics of undercover stings, the blurred line between entrapment and exposure, and just how deeply corruption ran beneath the surface. ABSCAM may have reshaped the political landscape, but it also reminded the public that the struggle against corruption is never entirely won. Thank you for watching this episode of Forgotten History. If you liked what you saw, please click like, share, and subscribe. And if you would like to assist with the ever-increasing cost of production, please consider becoming a channel member and joining our Patreon page. Please check out our merchandise store. And thanks for watching.